Hi guys, today I'll be taking a look at a Cherry MX Black clone, the Kailh Black. Let's get started. Now, these switches come in two different variants, a D01 and a D94 variant, although I think the D94 variant is using the wrong picture on their website. I also talk more about this in my Kailh Red video, which you can check out if you want to learn more about this. However, to save you some time, the biggest difference is one variant has an opaque top housing and the other one has a transparent top housing. Moving on, unlike the Kailh Red I received, these black switches say Longhua on the top housing instead of Kailh. This is because Kaiwa Electronics used to be known as Longhua Electronics, which is why you still see the Longhua logo in some of their products. In terms of pricing, these are under £5 for 10 switches on AliExpress, so this easily puts it in the budget end of the market, joining the likes of Gatron, Altamu and Greetech switches. And this is what they look like disassembled. Feel free to pause the video. Now let's move on to the switch categories. On-center key presses were quite scratchy in the first 4 days or so, but they did eventually get smoother, although some of the switches were still scratchy, proving that these are very inconsistent. Off-center key presses aren't too bad, they don't have any binding whatsoever, although just like with many budget switches, they have a slight tactile bump at the very end of the travel when you press at the very edge of the keycap like this. Although otherwise you probably won't notice it, and yes, they are decently scratchy at this point too. Overall, 5 out of 10. The weighting is medium stiff with an actuation force of 51 grams at 2.5mm and a bottom-out force of 67 grams at 3.8mm of total travel. It's very close to the MX Black, which is to be expected. However, if you look closely, this switch actuates at 2.5mm instead of the MX Black's 2mm. This was also the case with the Altamu Black, and I figured it was worth pointing out. Overall, I like the weighting just like I did with the MX Black. I didn't notice the slightly shorter travel nor the deeper actuation point, so I can't say much about those apart from the fact that I like this weighting and it's very enjoyable to type on. 7 out of 10. Sound is dead average. Actually, the scratchiness of the switch ruins the otherwise quite thocky sound signature, so it has some potential if you put some work into it. 5 out of 10. Now for the typing demo. Enjoy. Now, as mentioned in the beginning, these were quite scratchy at the very start of my test period, although I still liked the typing experience it gave to me out of the box. Sure, it's not the best, but it's decent compared to the Kailh Red, which was abysmal in this category. I swear that right now, these are much more enjoyable to type on. 6 out of 10. Now for gaming, pretty good. It's very consistent in fast-paced environments where rapid key presses are common, such as in TF2. But, and this is a big one, when pressed off-center it's very scratchy, so it's not ideal in all circumstances. It would really depend on the type of game you play. For me, I can't give it any lower than a 7 out of 10. In conclusion, it's a decent switch, but the Gatron Black still remains as king of the budget switches. It's a tough one to beat. The final score of this switch is 30 out of 50 or 60%. That's up there with some of its competitors like Altamu and Greetech, but more importantly, it beat the Kailh Red by a big margin. Then again, I'm using the newer version of the Kailh Black, so it's not exactly a fair comparison either. Next time, I'll be reviewing a special linear switch that was sent in for a review. Until then, take care and goodbye.